For the Detroit Lions, they have had a long-standing tradition of excellent kickers, but ever since Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have taken over, there's been a revolving door at the position. However, though, it seems that Jake Bates might just be the long-term answer after all, and we're going to talk about it. So stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lion.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. I know, my friends, that I said I wasn't feeling too well, but again, obviously, with the fact that there's all this news, I have to stay up with it. So again, regardless of how I personally feel, I've got to keep churning out this content because, again, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and I took my time off yesterday to kind of get better, so we're just going to keep going at this as best we can. But here's what I got to say, folks. When it comes to being a Detroit Lions fan, I would say probably over the last, 3-4 decades, at least since the 1980s, if there's been one position that Lions fans can without a doubt state that we have always had a top-notch, player at, it's been the kicking position. Think about it, folks. From 1980 to 1991, we had Eddie Murray. Then from 1991 to freaking 2000 and whatever the hell it was, we had Jason Hanson for like 20-something years. And then after that, we had Matt Prater for 6 years on top of that. So for like damn near 30-something plus years, 40 plus years, we have had excellent kicking. But the problem is that ever since Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have been in charge, I don't know what it's been, but for the last couple of years, that has been a position that has just seemed to elude them to find a long-term solution. And it's been proven in the fact that over the last 3 years, we've had how many freaking kickers kick for us? Like, 6? And now here we are, and dude, you go back to the beginning of this offseason when Jake Bates was just killing it in the UFL. Everybody, myself included, Derek from Lions Syndicate and a couple of others, we were advocates. We were staunch supporters of Detroit, Brad Holmes, go out and get Jake Bates. Get him. Do not let him slip through your fingers. Do not let him leave Ford Field. Do not let him go somewhere else. And the reason why was because this was a guy that in the UFL was about as automatic as you could possibly have from kicking long-range field goals. Because from 50 plus, almost from 60 plus, hell, almost from 70 plus yards out, this guy could make field goals, and he made it look almost effortless in most cases. And so when the news was announced that we were signing him to a 2-year deal, I was ecstatic, and so was virtually almost every other fan in the fan base. But the problem is that for all, like I said, the fanfare, all of the excitement and everything else that, Bates had coming in, the problem is that once training camp started and we started having news that he was being inconsistent in practice, he was having a lot of misses, and it sounded like he was shaky. I don't have to remind everybody, but there were some Lions fans and there were Lions writers and analysts that were starting to question if Bates actually was going to be a viable solution. And there were some that were saying, hey, either cut our losses, bring in somebody else like a veteran, or we just need to bring in somebody else to compete with Bates. And there was a lot of questions for the first week or so of training camp because we kept hearing all these reports that Bates was being inconsistent. But I've said this before, and I'll say this again. I am of the mindset that, yes, you practice the way you want to play. But I've also said this as well. I would much rather have a guy that kind of struggles in practice, but when the lights come on and they're ready to play, they are literally right on the money. I would much rather have a guy that doesn't do the greatest in practice, but on game day, he's always there. Because I don't give a damn if you're a practice warrior. It's what you do when the lights are on, when the lights are shining the brightest, when the pressure is on. That's what I care you do. And let's call it for what it is. I'm going to show these highlights, but ever since the freaking Lions have been out on the field playing preseason games, when the lights came on and when he had to make those kicks, Bates has been automatic. Jake Automatic Bates has been literally perfect. He's been 5 for 5 with hits from 55, 53, 43, 32, and 23. So what is that right there? Why did I bring up those numbers? Here's why. Because think about it. He's hit it from the 20-yard range, the 30-yard range, the 40-yard range, and the 50-yard range. It shows this. Jake Bates can kick from every freaking single level. He's not just good at the short range. He's not just good at the intermediate range. He's not just good at the long range. He's good at every single level. Now, we haven't seen him make one from 60 yet, but we know he can do it. We saw him do it in the UFL. That's what made him such a phenomenon. That's what made him such a sensation. But I'm going to say this right now. Jake Bates, I believe, as the title, the thumbnail, and everything else I'm saying, I believe that Jake Bates is going to be the next Lions great kicker. I literally 100% believe it. Because, first and foremost, for a guy who's coming from the UFL, who didn't play high school or college, he didn't play high school football, and realistically, he had a very long transition from going from college to the pros and everything else. For him to be able to pick up and, adjust to the transition, respond to the transition as quickly as he has from the UFL to the NFL is absolutely stupendous. Because think about this, folks. For other guys that we've had, whether it's been Prater, whether it's been, Hansen or Murray, they usually cut their teeth either when they were in college or maybe they were in the CFL first or they cut their teeth on another team before they came to our team, whatever the case was. But they had a much more professional starting, if you will, than what Bates had. Now, that's not to say the UFL is not a professional league. It definitely is. But let's call it for what it is also as well. The UFL is not the CFL. There's a reason why a lot of CFL players are considered kind of like the second-rate players to the NFL. And that the UFL, while it's starting to, kind of get its going, it's kind of had its on and off kind of period, whereas the CFL's been around forever. So that's why I'm saying the fact that Bates has been able to make this transition has been something that's really awesome. But at the same time, not only is it stupendously wonderful that, Bates has made this transition and has done so well doing it, it also has an awesome amount of side benefits for the Detroit Lions and their Super Bowl aspirations. Because I'm telling you this right now, the kicking position is one of those positions that gets overlooked a hell of a lot. But to have a good, great, competent kicker like Bates, it provides so much stuff to actually getting you to where you want to go. And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. Because think about this, folks. Having a kicker like Bates, what are some things that it helps the Lions with right off the bat? Number one, having a kicker like Jake Bates, it adds another weapon to an already slew of weapons that this team has to score points. Think about this, folks. If you have a drive that stalls at the 30 or 40 yard line, rather than having to risk a turnover on downs like we've seen in the past, we can instead say, hey, you know what? Just send out Bates. He'll nail it from, 40, 50, 60 yards out, and we can still get 3 points. Think about it. The ability to have a kicker that can do that, I would much rather take the 3 points rather than risking a turnover on downs and getting absolutely nothing, because 3 points is still 3 points. And let's call it for what it is. Go back to the game yesterday against the Kansas City Chiefs. Without Jake Bates' 4 field goals that accounted for half of our team's points in that one game, we do not win that game. And then think about this as well. Jake Bates has scored 15 points of the Detroit Lions, freaking 27 points this preseason. He scored more than half of the Lions' point this preseason alone. Having a consistent kicker, it easily makes winning games much more manageable. And think about this as another added benefit. It takes stress off of the offense and the defense, because it takes stress off of the offense because think about it. If the offense stalls, okay, yeah, it's not an optimal situation, but you can still send out the kicker there and still at least get 3 points rather than, going out empty-handed and not getting anything. So it's still a small win. And for the defense, it takes a little bit of stress off it because think about it. Hey, if you're already down and your offense doesn't get any points, that's a problem. But if you at least get 3 points back to where, hey, you know what? If the other offense got 3 points, okay, it's now an even match. Or they scored a touchdown and you got 3 points, okay, it's only a small difference. We can work with that. Again, having a competent kicker like Jake Bates, it offers a lot of great things. But that's only the first thing. Think about this as well. Number 2, having a kicker like Jake Bates, it also adds a weapon who can win games in the clutch. Case in point, again, go back to the game yesterday against the Chiefs. Freaking Jake Bates' 43-yard field goal was what won the game. I don't care what you want to say. I don't care if people want to say, oh, he should be able to do that. You think it's easy to go kick field goals? By all means, you go outside, you go find a freaking field goal post that's at a high school or someplace. You line up a 43-yard field goal, I'd like to see how many of y'all gonna make it. Especially when the game is on the line and you're really the one that everybody's looking to make the game happen. It's not as easy as y'all'd like to think. Trust me, I've done it. It's not a very easy thing to do because now everybody's eyes are on you and all the pressure's on you. Well, think about it. The ability to have a kicker who is automatic, who's cold-blooded, like Jake Bates, who does not get rattled in those situations, it's a rare quality to have in the NFL. And for the Lions to have it, it once again, gives them a distinct advantage that a lot of other teams don't have. Think about it. For a team like the Lions to have the offense that they have, the quarterback that they have, the receivers that they have, the running backs that they have, the offensive line that they have, the tight end that they have, you have all that offensive weaponry. Now you add a kicker who can go out there when the pressure's on and make these big kicks like Bates can. It gives the Lions yet another ability to win. If a game gets tight, a game gets close, and if the offense, for whatever reason, either stalls but gets close enough to Bates, range, it greatly enhances the ability to close out and win those close games. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I'm not. To have a kicker like Bates, it literally can be the margin between winning and losing. And if you don't believe me, ask the freaking Buffalo Bills what they would have given to have a competent kicker to kick a field goal in that first Super Bowl against the New York Giants. Mr. Wide Right by literally that much. Imagine having Jim Kelly having 1 Super Bowl ring versus 0 Super Bowl rings. Yeah, that's how big of a difference that can make. So again, that's another big distinct advantage of having a kicker like Jake Bates can have. Then, there's 2 more. But think about this as well. Like I said to a certain degree about how having a kicker like Bates can take the pressure off of his own team's offense and defense, it has the opposite effect for the opposing team's offense and defense. It puts more stress. It puts more pressure on said team's offense and defense. Think about this, folks. It puts more stress on an opposing team's offense because rather than having to just solely worry about a freaking opposing team's offense to, being the one that always scores the points, now you have a kicker, a weapon like Jake Bates. Okay, now it's no longer just, we have to worry about touchdowns. No, there is a whole different other avenue that the Lions now can win by. So, okay, that means that the opposing team's offense, they have to be even more efficient. They have to be even more explosive to try and win games. Because if they don't, that's more of a chance that they're going to lose. And then, for opposing teams' defenses, think about this. You're at the end of a game. It's a close game. Now a defense not only has to worry about trying to stop our offense, which let me tell you something, that is a literal handful to try and do, but now think about this. Now they have to try to not only stop the offense from scoring a touchdown themselves, but they have to find a way also to make sure that our offense does not get anywhere close to Bates' range to have an opportunity to win a close game where it's like, hey, we're only down by maybe 2 or we just need 3 to tie it. Think about that. That now puts more of a mental pressure and stressor on a defense because now it's like, well, man, now we're not just trying to stop them from getting into the end zone. If they score a field goal, now it's a completely different ball game. Again, the ability to win those mental games, those mental matchups, I'm telling you right now, it also has a huge benefit for the NFL and also for the Detroit Lions here. But perhaps one of the biggest advantages that having a kicker like Jake Bates has for the Lions, and I know this is going to catch me some flack. Some people are going to agree with me instantaneously, and others are going to say, how dare I even say this? But understand something. It's the damn truth. Whether you agree with it or not, it's the truth. Having a kicker like Jake Bates, it also keeps Dan Campbell slightly more in check on his aggressive calls. Think about it. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that Dan Campbell is aggressive. I love the fact that he is fearless and he is willing to let the Lions offense stay out there on fourth down to try and convert it rather than just always giving up and saying, hey, let's just send out the punt unit. I love that about Dan Campbell. I always have. And I love that aggressiveness. But there has been times, again, where that aggressiveness has teetered on the brink of just stupidity. It's been to the point where it's like, okay, here, let's just stop and use our brain here. We don't always have to go for it on fourth down. We can kick field goals. That is a viable option. But to Campbell's credit, to Campbell's defense, he's not had a long-range, viable kicker that he can trust like Jake Bates right now. Don't get me wrong. Michael Badgley, he was a decent option. But let me ask you this question. Who would you rather have? Would you rather have Michael Badgley or would you rather have Jake Bates? That's what I thought. I'd rather have Jake Bates. So now that you have Jake Bates, while I expect that Campbell to a certain degree is still going to be moderately aggressive, having Bates is going to keep Campbell in check to be more than likely to be willing to take the points in most situations rather than always trying to force the issue on fourth down. Because again, like I said in the very beginning, I would much rather take 3 points more often than risking everything and getting nothing. And again, you don't believe me? Imagine how the Lions' chances of going to the Super Bowl would have changed if we'd have kicked 2 field goals rather than going for it on fourth down and not converting it in the NFC Conference Championship game. Oh, that's right. Had we kicked those 2 field goals and converted even just one of them, we'd have gone to overtime. But if we had converted both of them, we'd have won and gone to the Super Bowl. So just think about that. Had we had Jake Bates last year, the Lions could have gone to their first Super Bowl, more likely than not. But having a kicker like Jake Bates right now on a talented roster, more so than what it was last year, imagine the sheer amount of good that does for the Lions. It means that those close, tight games, those games against an opponent that you have to be at your best for everything, and it still might be a close game. Now you have another weapon like Bates that makes it more of an advantage for you to win. And I was a Lions fan, I will take every advantage I can get my hands on to win a Super Bowl. And Bates is one of those advantages. Just calling it for what it is. But anyway, folks, like I said, I truly believe that Jake Bates, we've got our long-term kicker. If I could, I would do what the freaking Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes and say, hey, how do we sign you to a 10-year contract so that way you don't go anywhere? Because that's how confident I am in Jake Bates. I like the fact that he has the power. I like the fact that he has the consistency. I like the fact that he has the accuracy. And understand this, folks, this is his first year in the NFL as a starting kicker. Think about this. The more time that he gets, the more reps he gets, the more experience he gets, the better and better and better he's going to be. And right now, he's already pretty damn good. Imagine how good he's going to be with another 2, 3, 4 years under his belt as a starting kicker. Yeah, y'all starting to see the picture I'm seeing. But anyway, I'm going to end this episode, and I just want to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also want to encourage y'all, please, to make sure you do one of these 2 things. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please, if you subscribed in the past, and again, highly encourage y'all to subscribe, but if you subscribed in the past and forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you not had a chance to do so, again, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that you guys never miss any more content. Also want to encourage y'all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody you can. The more we share it, the greater the channel grows, the greater the channel spreads, and the greater we're able to bring in more people to watch the content. And with that being said to everybody, hope you all are having a great day. Hope you all got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. Hope you all enjoyed the content. God bless. Until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.